It's a Tuesday. It's almost 7:30 Central African time. Welcome to the top tier Breakaway League Racing. My name is Bob O'Connor, and welcome to Canada. We are going to, for the first time in a while, have top tier Breakaway League Racing. Thank you very much for choosing this league and making it your league of choice here tonight. Look, it's great to be back. It's been too long since we had our top tier drivers fighting it out here in these streets, so to speak. As you can see on the bottom of the screen, the former champion Titus is here, as is the two-time and reigning champion Seaclay. It's a full house as far as attendance or representation is concerned. And of course, I speak now about the Haas team because Seaclay and Nebo are here. But we do have a quorum of drivers that will ensure that we do have 35 laps of racing here in Canada. And man, we have really missed the top tier of Breakaway League racing. And as we wait for the drivers to be well and truly ready and for the lobby to shift from ready to indeed qualifying and racing, well, it is something that we can look forward to. Yeah, we've really missed racing for a number of weeks now, but we do hope to see more and more drivers become available to race. It's Canada now that we will have underway, and Seaclay, of course, is on a hot streak. 4 straight race wins for the Haas driver, for the champion, that is. So will it be 5 in a row? Well, he's been absolutely insanely dominant, but we'll see whether or not he can be challenged here today. With just 12 drivers having confirmed their places on this grid thus far, we could expect them to take it easy in Q1, and thereafter things will get a little bit serious in Q2 because 2 of these guys will be knocked straight out. And we'll see how they fare in the battle for the top 10 shootout. But that is only coming later, because in the top tier Breakaway League Racing, we have a full qualifying session. Let's take a look at the form table a little bit. Ben Kobe is here. His teammate, Ludi T, cannot be here. So it's all on Ben Kobe's shoulders to secure decent points for McLaren today. He's only managed 2 race finishes in the 5 races so far. He's had 3 DNFs. Has banned Kobe, so a lot of work to do for the McLaren driver there. He needs to put it together. Only 12 drivers as things stand. It could change, of course, as load shedding schedules click on and click off, so do not be surprised to see this grid expand and for us to get more drivers as the evening goes along. Now, thank you for joining us. I see Kid K is here in the comment section. We'll keep a close eye on all your interactions, and we'll see exactly what is happening, what your thoughts and impressions are. But right now, it is the countdown to Q1. And, well, I expect we'll start to see these drivers really pushing in Q2 when a stake in that top 10 shootout in the battle for pole position is on the line. Zotal is here, Seaclay, and Lebo, and Shangu, a.k.a. Mdu, of course. Seps is here on behalf of a Ferrari, Mfundo. It's good to see him here representing Alpine, of course. Zotal and Mfundo working hand in hand, flying the flag high for Alpine. Tsepo Temba is here with his trademark brilliance and his trademark, surgical precision on track. Inati, what can he do today? Josh, aka Damnesia. We've seen him already claim a race win. Damnesia is pretty much the only person to deny Seaclay a race win in this season thus far. And yeah, what a season he's had so far. He's finished in the points, has Josh, in every single race since this season has started. So do not be surprised to see him fighting it out. Of course, he has been, somewhat aggressive, much to the chagrin of some of his competitors, and we'll see whether or not he keeps that trademark aggression as this race gets underway proper. But right now, we have 18 minutes for these drivers to put in their banker laps, And, well, sit tight because as things stand, of course, they are pretty much all through to Q2. And that is when things get really interesting. But we like to see drivers push a little bit and perhaps try to play with the limits and just see how comfortable they're feeling on this track. Long straights, of course, here in Canada, both on, of course, this main straight and the back straight, which comes just after the hairpin, which you'll see in the onboards coming up. Otherwise, it's a track which is incredibly punishing as far as track limits are concerned. A couple of really quick, tight chicanes where you really stand a high risk of going over the track limits and getting warnings, which could, of course, eventually lead to 3-second time penalties. So, last time out, last season, it was a time penalty shootout. So many drivers found themselves, incurring time penalties. Will that be the case here today? Well, time will tell. And already, with 16 and a half minutes of this qualifying session to go, we'll get a sense of whether or not there'll be a couple of early invalidations. Remember, all they need to do is just set that banker lap, and, well, things will hopefully not be too complicated for this grid right here. Welcome to Top Tier Breakaway League Racing. We've definitely missed saying that. We've missed having you as our viewers, of course. And let's catch up with some of the drivers that are first out on track. And as always, of course, Cepiso seems to be leading the pack. He's already approaching the hairpin is the Ferrari driver. Josh, aka Damnesia, with slight network issues, but he's well and truly back in the session. Cepiso, this is a golden opportunity for him, especially if the race begins with just 12 drivers. It's a golden opportunity for Cepiso to keep on racking up the points thus far. He's had one DNF, has Cepiso. Started the season out of the points for the first 2 races and has managed to finish within the points in Australia, Jeddah, and Baku, finishing 6th, 7th, and 10th. But right now, he takes turn 1 without too much incident. Mabla joined, says Kid K in the comments section. Well, it's Cepiso now in Sector 1. Let's see how he takes this chicane. Of course, so much risk of invalidating there, but not the case with the Ferrari driver, who'll be the first to set a banker lap here, and indeed will be the one to lay down the marker. Begins Sector 2 and points that Ferrari straight down this short straight into the right-hander. Another chicane, another potentially perilous spot, but Cepiso keeps it together here towards the end of the second sector, and of course that hairpin, 43.471 is the marker at which he finishes sector 2. Goes quite wide on the exit of the hairpin, does Cepiso, but he keeps it pointed straight on. And he will hurtle on towards the final chicane. And on the right, of course, you will see that Wall of Champions, which has claimed many a victim. Will it be Cepiso? No, he takes that chicane cleanly, and he opens up that rear wing to cross the line with a 112.680. That is the gauntlet. The Mercedes of Mshengu is on the verge of crossing the line here. Or rather, he's on the final chicane, is Mshengu. Debut season in the top tier, what'll it be for him? 116.934, so some way away from the time set by Cepiso. There's a Ferrari also on the verge of beginning its hot attempt. What about Van Kobe? Unfortunately for him, he had invalidated, so he's going to have to give it another go, Will Van Kobe for McLaren. So instead, we will catch up with someone who's on the verge of completing his lap, and that would be this man, Anlepo, who was followed closely behind by an Alpine. Let's see how the Haas driver completes this initial banker lap. And Nebo, for the pride of Haas, will cross the line P2, 113.247. And Zotal, who's just behind him, goes P3. Seakley will go quicker. It's a 111.4 for the champion. In the other Haas, laying down an early marker. Of course, a significant quicker. Only a second quicker than Cepiso with 11.4. Seakley doing what he does and laying it on with out into the. Here comes Inati to cross the line, 114.0. It's going to be P5. And Mshengu seems to be on the verge of crossing again. He improves, 113.7. And decent effort there for and Shengu. Now, Bankobi is on the verge of completing his banker lap. It was another invalidation. Bankobi's red light is flashing. He's going to have to go again. Has yet to set a time as the McLaren driver, so a lot of work for him to do. We'll see whether or not he can keep it together. Meanwhile, it looks like Teppo Temba is on the verge. But as I say that, he's also invalidated. But he seems to have enough fuel on board to give it another go. Let's see how he fares now and hop on board with the Ferrari driver. Sector 1, it's turns 1 and 2 without incident now for Teppo Temba. Look out for these chicanes where there's so much risk. And you see him lifting off the throttle. He came through that in fourth gear, kid Teppo Temba. Good evening, Miss Bono. It's great to see you, as always, in the comment section. Good evening, Miss Bono. Good evening, Kid K. Good evening to all of our viewers. This is the top tier Breakaway League racing. Let's see how Teppo Temba fares towards the end of this second sector. Another potentially perilous chicane, but he eases off the throttle. Again, he was down in fourth gear, and he just wants to set that banker lap, and then he'll breathe easy, come back to the pits, and look forward towards Q2. He comes through the hairpin. It is the final sector for the Ferrari driver. Ahead of him is the McLaren of Bankobi, who has no choice. So they pretty much come back into the pits eventually, because he does not have that much fuel on board. The McLaren makes way, and Teppo Temba goes through the chicane with his heart in his throat, something there potentially for that invalidation, but not Teppo Temba crossing the line. P3 on 12.840, tucks right in between his teammate and Zotav. We are back. Top tier, says Randall Chevy in the comment section. Yes, it's fantastic to have you in the comment section, Randall Chevy. Let's see now how the rest of Teppo Temba's lap, or rather session, will go. We'll watch him closely. Sequay tops the timesheets. He's back in the pits with that 111.4. Tapiso is second. Teppo Temba third. It's a Ferrari 2 and 3 thus far in Q1. And, well, we can expect a lot of these drivers just to take it easy back in the pits. Inazzi seems to have had a little bit of an incident here. His banker lap sees him in P7 currently. But he looks like now he might just be making his way back to the pit. He's, in sector 3 now, and he's just pointing that car straight down towards the pit lane. Is that a wingless Ferrari, I think? Or is he just slowing down Teppo Temba? Look to have slowed down to make way for the other drivers, and to be so attempting to go out again has invalidated his lap attempt, but he will give it another go, will Tapiso. Now, Titus, the former champion. Whoa, Inazzi? He must be struggling for tire temperature here, or something like that, because that's the second time we catch up with Inazzi. He's pretty much in a stationary position, but he gets it back together, and he's probably going to send that car, nurse that car, back to the pit lane. That Aston Martin, he will be happy that his teammate Titus, the former champion, of course, is back in the reckoning. Good points for Haas, says Sequay in the comment section. And yes, Miss Bono, absolutely agree. It's a travesty that we've missed out on so much top-tier Breakaway League racing. Former champion Titus is bringing that car back into the pit lane. Let's catch up with Enfundo in the Alpine. Some distance between him and his teammate, who's sitting snug in P4, is Zotal. And Enfundo comes through that chicane pretty much without incident. By the top of board, you get a sense of what it feels like from the perspective of the Alpine drivers. The hairpin. How tight will he take this apex? The answer is he will just nudge it a little bit. Sector 3 for Enfundo will point that Alpine straight down this back straight. Let's see now if he can manage to improve significantly on that 114.253. It's the final chicane without incident for Enfundo. Opens up that rear wing and will cross the line this time. It's an improvement of almost 8 tenths, 7.5 tenths to be precise. And Enfundo finds himself 2 places behind teammate Zotan currently. Enfundo, it's good to have him back. It's good to have Tier 1 back. The flagship tier, of course, of this Breakaway Racing League. So it's absolutely fantastic to see all these guys back in their element. Bankobi has yet to set a banker lap, and Bankobi is spinning in Sector 2. Tire temperature, perhaps?
yazi ukuthi badrayiva ngathi mara ngempela ukuthi bazospina lana ku-F1 ezincinane kwenzakalani bamanje kucela ibhenka leyo awufakile lapha.
Yes, we're seeing a Banco becoming a Banco lap there, and probably starting with two pilots interview. With 7.5 minutes of this first qualifying session, this Q1 to go, Bankovi's just going to have to cross the line and, well, find himself right at the bottom of the timesheets, regardless of how slow his time is, because all he needs is that Banco lap, and he's guaranteed that spot in Q2, where he can well and truly start to compete. 127.658, significantly slower. Bankovi retires from the session. Well, he's pretty much done with this Q1. You'll just send that McLaren back to the pit lane and see how he can go from there. Tapiso, invalidated once again. He's bringing that car back, and it's a wingless wonder of a Ferrari, meaning the last man left on track is Nebo. The pride and joy of Haas alongside the champion Sequay. Now, on the long straight towards the final chicane, lifts off the throttle and abandons that hot lap attempt. He will come back. Perhaps the drivers have reached consensus to just keep things moving here and carry on straight through to Q2. Perhaps that is exactly what we're seeing here. And Neville's going to just nurse that Haas back to the garage here. 6 minutes of Q1 left to go. We are back, Seaplay said. Codemasters must not mess with us tonight, says Wandal Chezzy. Of course, with all these different patches being rolled out by the Game Masters, aka Codemasters, we have seen our fair share of issues as far as glitches are concerned. Well, we'll hold thumbs that we'll have a good, clean, glitchless, seamless race here in Canada in these beautiful settings as the reigning champion Seaplay is coming out just to give this track another go. Stretching the legs, so to speak, of that Haas. Let's see what Seaplay can do. We're going to ride on board with the champion as he hurtles towards the chicane down just before the main straight. Tapiso decides that's it for him in Q1. Seaplay, meanwhile, begins another run, another fast lap on this track. No issues with the apexes of turns 1 and 2 for the Haas driver. Let's see if this will be an improvement. 111.4 is, of course, the benchmark that he has set, taking all the limits coming through that chicane, carrying so much speed as Seaplay. He is improving. He's about 7/100ths of a second quicker by the end of Sector 1. Let's see what kind of a split he can do by the end of Sector 2 as he will point that car towards the hairpin. But let's not think too far ahead because he has to navigate this chicane, and he does so without incident. It's Seaplay screaming towards the hairpin in Sector 2 here. Crosses line 2/10, 42.336, 2/10 quicker than his previous best. So we're looking at another scorcher of a lap from Seaplay here. Will be joined on track by Inati, who's currently on his out lap with 4 minutes of this first qualifying session to go. This is absolutely great practice for Seaplay to show what he can do potentially towards Q2 and 3. Straightens that car coming out of that chicane. 108, 109. Will it be a time of the 110? Seaplay across the line improves 111.175. Another fantastic effort from the Haas driver. Seaplay is too smooth, says Christopher. Crash, say Kyle, and Kise. And yeah, absolutely sensational cornering and precision with the way that he comes through those chicanes and the amount of speed that he carries, of course, through those chicanes, which are so perilous. Drivers falling foul of those chicanes, but not the champion, not Seaplay. What about Inati? About to begin another attempt, currently 10th in Q1 with 3 minutes of the session to go. As things stand, it is just these two drivers, Seaplay and Inati, on track. He takes turn 1 fairly unscathed. It's gear 2 through the second turn. Let's see whether or not, let's see how you'll do at the end of this first sector now, what kind of a split he will get. Of course, he came through that chicane unscathed. He's 2/10ths quicker. Inati looking positive. Things are looking up for the Aston Martin driver now. It's the dash towards the next perilous chicane before he sends that car screaming towards the hairpin unscathed once again. The Sector 2 split for Inati will be a 43.78 quicker than his previous best. So looking very, very good here as things stand. Ooh, he could find himself, perhaps nudging Mfundo down a peg or two if it can keep this up. Inati now will send that car, of course, hurtling towards the final chicane. Remember, this is another spot where you can annoyingly also get invalidated, but not the case in this instance. Inati has kept it together and will cross the line in P8, about 6.5 quicker. Indeed, he nudges Mfundo down a peg with that 113.408. M. Shangu was on an outlap, as is the former champion, Titus. So let's catch up with him and see how he fares. He is almost taking liberties with the wall there, did Titus, and will weave to the left and the right, trying to get a little bit of the temperature into those tires, get them into the optimal working window. Looks like M. Shangu is letting Titus go, but no, Titus is still doing his own thing. M. Shangu goes past and will set his own banker lap ahead of the former champion. We're going to stay on board and watch how Titus does and see whether or not he can put in a time to really give the likes of Cicle and Tapiso and Seppo Temba a lot to think about. Now, Ngawako is hoping that we're going to see a lot more of these drivers. Ngawako, of course, that being D-Wax, hoping to see a lot more of these drivers by the time the clock strikes 8 o'clock. Now, it's former champion Titus making his way on another hot lap attempt, looking to give Cicle something to think about. Takes turn 1 absolutely cleanly, bit wide of the apex through turn 2. But how much time can he make up now through these chicanes, especially? It's gear 4 through there, quickly switches to 5 and points that car straight, hugs the line towards the right and takes this left-hander without too much of an incident, all the way down to gear 2 for Titus. So in some corners, not carrying as much speed as the likes of Cicle. Of course, that's through the smoothness he's going to carry so much in through the apexes. It was 4th gear there through that chicane for Titus, making his way now towards the hairpin. Takes that split 0.8 quicker, 44.050, 0.8 quicker than his previous best, it must be said. Remember, he's only P11 here in Q1. But, of course, he's looking to give Cicle, Tapiso, Seppo Temba, maybe even Zopal something to think about here. He will be the last man to cross the line and complete this Q1 session. Takes that chicane cleanly, almost invalidating there, but manages to keep it together. And Titus, former champion, will cross the line with a time that looks like it's in the 113s. It's P9, so improves by a factor of 2 positions in this first qualifying session. That's your Q1. Those are your 12 to take part in Q2. Cicle tops the timesheet, the only man in the 1 minute 11th, 111.1. Tapiso, P2 for Ferrari, flanked by his teammate in 3rd. Zotal is 4th. Josh, aka Damnesia, slots snugly into P5. And Lebo is looking fairly comfortable with that time in the 113th, P6 for him. S. Buddha, P7. Inati is 8th. Titus, former champion, P9. Mfundo is 10th. And Mshengu and Bad Kobe round off these places at the end of Q1. Tindo says the top 10 times from 2nd wouldn't have been top 10 in Tier 2. Tindo paying close attention, of course, to the splits, to the times, to the performances. And I can tell you that now that all these drivers are at risk of being kicked out and not qualifying for Q3, we can expect to see some well and truly representative laps. Expect these drivers to dial it up a notch in Q2 as well as Q3, as Brown Boy mentions in the comments section. And Man Ray, of course, lamenting the lack of a podium finish last time out. Man Ray, of course, on a redemption arc of sorts, had some pretty nifty overtakes of his own, did Man Ray, in our Tier 2 race. You can catch Man Ray, you can catch the likes of Smirch Django, the likes of Kid K, in our Tier 2 races on Mondays and Wednesdays. But this is, of course, our top tier of Breakaway League racing. Let's see how they will all fare. Bankobi this time is wasting no time. He was the slowest through Q1. He really struggled, did the McLaren driver, invalidation after invalidation. But right now, being the first man out on track, will look to set that banker lap first and be quick with it. And hopefully give the likes of Seaplay a lot to think about. Now, Bankobi has his work cut out for him here. We have not seen a truly representative time from the McLaren driver. 3 DNFs this season for Bankobi, so he really needs to find a semblance of consistency and form on behalf of McLaren. Scored points in just 2 races. Did Bankobi, finishing P5 in Monaco and finished 10th in Jeddah, which one could consider his home race. He really enjoys Jeddah, does Bankobi. So he's hoping to have a good time out here tonight. He's the only person representing McLaren, and takes a couple of liberties coming through that final chicane. Let's hop on board and get a sense of what it's like. He goes wide to line that car up for a perfect entry into turn 1. Not just the apex there, as is the case through turn 2, gear 2, and is the first man, of course, to set a representative lap. So you both see purple all round. Took that chicane through gear 4, will hug the line, the wall towards the right, and he takes that first split, 20.7. And Shangu was blocking the pit lane and has been disqualified. Oh man, so that means only one other driver will have to worry about their spot in Q3. Shangu shanking it without even setting a lap here. He will be kicking himself, as will the team in Mercedes. Now, 43.7 is the split at the end of Sector 2 for Bankobi. He hugs that hairpin and points that car straight towards this long straight towards the final chicane, of course. With 12 minutes and 12 seconds to go, Bankobi will be the first to set this representative time. But I would have you know that Seaplate was breathing down his neck slightly behind him. No issues through the final chicane. He will open up that rear wing, will Bankobi, and will cross the line as we see Seaplay coming through. 113.4. What about Seaplay? Opens up rear wing. It's a 111.326. Sensational again from the champion. The Ferrari of Tapiso is had invalidated. Meanwhile, Josh, aka Damnesia, has crossed the line for P3 because Zotal in the Alpine has just pipped Josh's recent lap. So the times are coming in thick and fast, and Fundo looks to be on an in lap rather, and Fundo looks to have just begun his own effort, so we'll catch up with him. Meanwhile, let's see how Seppo Temba is doing. Sector 2 for the Ferrari driver. Let's see what kind of a split it'll be. Seakley, of course, laying down the early gauntlet. No one can come close. 43.4 at the end of Sector 2 for Seppo Temba, who will have the Papaya Orange McLaren of Bankobi immediately ahead of him. This is the viewpoint for the Ferrari driver, who will look, of course, to be challenging the likes of Seaplay. It's a free slipstream from the McLaren. How much of an advantage will that give Seppo Temba? Oh, so close to the wall there as he points that car straight, and Seppo Temba will cross the line. P3, 112.6, tucking right behind Zotal, who's back in the pits. What about Esbuda? Now, let's see how he will fare. 123.2, definitely not a representative time by any stretch of the imagination. Esbuda will be giving it another go, will be giving it his absolute all as he hurtles down towards the final chicane. The hopes and dreams of Williams rest in the hand of this man, Esbuda. Caboza is not here to play the team game. Esbuda will cross the line with that 113.2. Good enough for P6 currently. And, well, he will look, of course, to improve on that. Because I can say if you're not in the 112s, well, a lot of work to do. A lot of work to do to secure your spot in the top 10 shootout. A lot of work for him to do. And now Seaclay's teammate, and Lebo, has just or rather is on the verge of completing that split towards the end of Sector 2. Goes a bit wide at the beginning of that chicane there, compromises his exit. How much time will that cost him? He needs to set that banker lap and secure his spot here, and does not quite kiss the apex. Ooh, has a bit of a moment coming out of the hairpin. It's and Nebo now. Let's see whether or not he can be comfortably into Q3. It's the final chicane, so perilous, heart in mouth type of moment. But no invalidation here. He keeps it together. 111, 112, 113.4. P7. So Tuck's right behind S. Buddha, as you can see there. Now, the teammates, that being Inati and former champion Titus, are on the verge of beginning their respective laps. And, looks like Inati might have taken a couple of liberties with track limits there. Yeah, he will just, of course, bring that car home and begin a hot lap in earnest. But ahead of him is former champion Titus, turn 1 unscathed, turn 2 a little bit wide on the exit, has to correct that line, has a bit of a twitch there. That'll cost him perhaps close to a 10th or perhaps even more. Sector 1, whew, so close to the wall on the right there, but keeps it together. He will take a wider line into the apex of that left-hander. No issues there. Comes out unscathed. Let's go, S. Buddha, says Kaboza, cheering on his teammate who's back in the pit. S. Buddha, P6, will be thinking about perhaps improving on that and setting a time in the 112. That might be a time to lead you safely through to Q3. 7.5 minutes or so to go is former champion Titus, who was wide of the apex of this hairpin. Josh, aka Damnesia, seems to have crashed out. If you look on the bottom right of the map, Josh seems to have crashed out in Sector 2. Oh man, that pretty much leaves everybody safe if they can just keep it together here, because the M. Shenga, remember, got disqualified from this session. Now, as Titus, Sector 3, the final part of the track, will cross the line, 114.087. Slow by his standards, slow by the standards of this field. Definitely some work to do, some time to find for the Aston Martin driver, and we'll see whether or not he can keep it together. Tapiso has opted to retire, presumably in the pits. Or was it out on track? Seppo Tella's in the pits, but it looks like Tapiso might have also lost that car. If you look on the map, towards the end of Sector 1. That first chicane, seemingly. Well, isn't that dramatic? A sprinkling of drama. And Nebo seems to have really abandoned his hot lap attempt. He's bringing it back home, back to the pits. As is Kobe, seemingly. Yeah, slows down to almost a complete halt as he brings that McLaren safely back into the pits. Does not want to give the mechanics too much work to do. Titus is also making his way back, and he'll pretty much be the last man to come back into the pits. What about Infundo? Is making his way now on the final chicane. Opens up that rear wing, but he's moving really quite slowly. 113.6 is his best effort thus far. He does have a lot of fuel on board, does the Alpine driver. Let's see how he fares. His teammate is comfortably in that P2 spot. No need for Zotal. He will take to the pit lane. No need for him to come out again. And Fundo twitching that steering wheel, tapping it a little bit, trying to adjust his line and keep that car straight. How much time is that costing him? Opens up that rear wing through the first DRS zone of this track, straight into this perilous chicane. But he comes through unscathed, does M. Fundo. He hopes of Alpine P7. He will not be feeling comfortable with just under 5 minutes to go. He splits that with a 43.0, I believe, at the end of Sector 2. He's definitely improving his M. Fundo. So we're looking at a potentially scorching effort here. Can he nudge S. Buddha down from that P4 spot? Ooh, can he find himself in the 1 minute 12? Final chicane for the Alpine driver. What'll it be? Oh, invalidate! He invalidates on that final chicane, and Fundo will be kicking himself. Oh, man. And, well, the team at Alpine will be consoling him, Fundo, with some excerpts from his hit song from the internet, if you're not aware. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Is the hit song that Fundo sang. Well, it's all over the internet. It's an internet sensation as Fundo when he's not being a superstar driver for Alpine. 4 minutes of the qualifying session to go, of Q2, that is. And looks like Zotal, Fundo's teammate, is giving it another go. Currently on an outlap, as is Inati for Aston Martin. Has yet to set a time. Now let's hop on board with Inati. See whether or not he can keep it together and guarantee his spot in Q3. 3.5 minutes or so to go before the end of this Q2. How will Inati take the first chicane? The answer is unscathed. Heart and mouth moment there if you're not precise with your steering inputs there. Sector 2 for Inati. What will the split be just before the hairpin? Inati keeps it together and will hold his breath to keep it together through this chicane, and he does. This time, it'll be a split in the low 40 seconds, perhaps. Yes, 43.4 is the split at the end of Sector 2. Of course, he does not have a comparative a time to be comparing that effort with, so we'll see how he fares. Meanwhile, Cicle is on the verge of completing another hot lap. Will Cicle improve? Cicle is on the verge of crossing the start-finish line. Inati, almost having a huge moment and potential validation if he kept it together. And his Banco lap will put him in P4. He becomes the 4th driver to put it in the 1 minute 12. A very, very, very good, solid effort from Inati. 112.932 with less than 2.5 minutes of the session to go. Tapiso, Josh, a damn ninja, and Shengu have pretty much ruled themselves out potentially of Q3. Shengu with that disqualification, and Tapiso and damn ninja seem to have lost their cars out on track, coming out of those so perilous chicanes, where things, of course, get so tense and tight. Zotal, let's hop on board with him. We haven't spent too much time with the Alpine driver today. It doesn't look like he's particularly sending it, so we're going to have to catch up with him a little bit later. Meanwhile, Cicle is improving by a factor of 0.3. Remember, Cicle is the only man in the 1 minute 11, and with just over 90 seconds to go, he invalidates! Coming through, taking the first part of that final chicane, invalidates, but that red light is not flashing, so Cicle will have another bite at the cherry here to improve, potentially, unless the stewards told him that both that lap and the next lap has been invalidated, which is, of course, quite an irritating phenomenon as an F1 driver here, as far as these games are concerned. So, yeah, Cicle tops the timesheets with about a minute of the session to go from this man. Zotal coming back into the pits. 112.1 for the Alpine driver. Tempo Temba is P3 as things stand. Inati, what an effort from him. Only the 4th man to put that time in the 1 minute 12. As Buddha is the first of the drivers running at the 1 minute 13 mark. P5 currently Nebo. P6 Ban Kobe. P7 Fundo, who seems to be giving it another go, is in P8 here. Tapiso was, of course, in the 112s, as was Josh, a damn ninja. But their times, or rather their Q2, came to an abrupt halt after some issues out on track. Now, Fundo is making his way through Sector 2. It looks like, Fundo, as I say that, has a huge moment. Touches the wall there, does Fundo, and has to kind of catch himself again. And that pretty much brings the end. That heralds the end of Q2 here, and Fundo will bring it back home, safe in the knowledge that he's taking part in the top 10 shootout. Tindo asking for Bratox, I believe. He's making his way around the commentary box, trying to gather some statistics for the rest of this qualifying session. But we should see him taking part here. Let's see what is happening in the comment section. This circuit sucks, says Wandel Shuzzy. Yeah, not definitely not the most forgiving of circuits. And Man Ray says, Utitosi, Titus might not make it out of Q2. Well, it looks like courtesy of those incidents out on track, Titus might just find himself in the reckoning in that battle for pole position. Sequay tops the timesheets here in Canada. If you've just joined us, it's the end of Q2. He has been the man to beat once again. And we have it on good authority that D-Wax is going to be taking part in this race. So we can expect to see him and at the start of the grid, of course. As Buddha doing Williams proud with that P5 spot, he will have his eyes firmly fixed on challenging the top runners. And, well, as you can see, with all of those issues having taken place in those DNFs et al., looks like it might just be 8 drivers taking part in Q3. Sequay, Zotal, Seppo Temba, Inati, S. Buddha, and Neville, Ban Kobe, and Mfundo. Tindo is running a bit of a campaign here. Let's see exactly how... Baratox, I think, should be here in a second here. Sequay says, trust everyone is going to get fast. That is absolutely correct. And he's expecting the times, to really start to inch closer and closer to his, or perhaps even to beat them. But time will tell who exactly can challenge Sequay.
Maruzothile ngathi uzomchallenge uRaiden u6 yabo. Usihle seka-comfortable nje, seka-comfortable mara wazomchallenge yabo bayi-8 labantu. 12 minutes azobona khona uzothile uzomchallenge.
Yes, perhaps Zotal will be there. We saw him turn it up, turn the wicker up a little bit. Did Zotal in Q2? It's a good showing for Alpine and Haas. Of course, both sets of those drivers represented here. Van Kobe wasting no time again. He's not been happy. Let's see if we get a time in the 111 flat, says Smirch Django. Sequay, the champion, reckons we'll see times in the 110.
Usihle kuye lona ozofaka ama-110 yabo. Usihle uzobashaya nge-slam dunk uzobona. Mara uzothile, look out for uzothile nje yabo. Yeah, uzothile maybe not Themba nga-surprise. Sobona khona.
Yes, Cesar Bonacona. Indeed, 11 minutes of this qualifying session to go. And Van Kobe, once again, will be the first to attempt to lay down some sort of marker. Just 8 drivers in this Q3. Let's go, Zats, says Miss Bono. Of course, Miss Bono and Brown Boy are in the comment section currently with those royal blue pom-poms, waving them quite fervently they are. And Zotal comes almost with a complete halt there, bringing out a temporary yellow flag. And he keeps it going. Let's go, says Smirch Django. And a couple of people with those blue pom-poms for Zotal. Brown Boy, of course, has the pom-poms for Red Bull. It's a pity we don't see the Red Bulls out on track here today, that being Brown Boy emblems, who've been sensational since this season has started. But here comes Ban Kobe, the first man to set a hot lap in earnest. And what will turn 1 be for the McLaren drive group? Fairly unscathed, but slows down there coming out of turn 2. It's always gear 2 for Ban Kobe, as he almost takes limits coming out of that chicane, but manages to keep it together. The end of sector 1 is a 20.550 for Ban Kobe. But remember, behind him is Sequay, whose times we'll also be watching very, very closely. What can Ban Kobe do coming through the chicane? He keeps it together. It's the second, but not the final chicane, and not the final spot where he could be validated 43.6 at the split of sector 2, the end of sector 2, that is. And he will point that car straight down this back straight after the hairpin. This will be the first representative lap, followed, of course, by none other than the champion driver, that being Sequay. This is the chicane with Sequay invalidated last time out. Brakeaway has to slow down there to get that line absolutely perfect. He opens up that rear wing, and Brakeaway sets a 112.3 as his Branko lap. Sequay is screaming towards the line with a 110.890. The first man to set a time in the 1 minute 10s. He was the only man in the 111s earlier, and Zotao joins him 111.9, but he is about 9/10 off the absolutely insane time set by the reigning champion. Absolutely sensational effort once again by the champion, Sequay, in the Haas. As Christopher Crash Seikau calls upon the name of our Lord and Savior, barely believing what Sequay has just done. The times are trickling in. S. Buddha set the time of the 113. What about Mfundo? He's on the hairpin now. Let's see how he fares.
Oh no, usihle ebakwendezela nje 110 uyithatha angathi uthatha mara nibuzotshela angathi yathos utshelele ukuthi uzotshela uzoba challenge but hey ebheka le gap nje ubheka le gap.
Yes, back on the gap indeed. It's Mfundo now towards the final chicane. Will he go on the limit? The answer is yes, but not invalidated is Mfundo. He is hoping against hope to get a competitive time, but only P4 behind Brakeaway is the Alpine driver, as Teppo Temba is now out, but he is unfortunately invalidated. Sequay brings that Haas back home now to the pit lane, and he is going to take a little bit of a breather now. And Wendell Chesney says Sequay really missed punishing these guys. Yeah, the gap there is 1.1 second. The gap between P1 and 2. Absolutely sensational effort there from Sequay, whose teammate is now currently giving it a proper go. And Nebo, what can he do now on this second chicane in Sector 2? He has a bit of a moment, but adjusts that line to point it straight now towards the hairpin. How tight will he take that apex? The answer is he will not just slightly, but goes wide on the exit. Almost has a moment with the wall. Now has to correct it and send that half hurtling down towards that final chicane, that also parallel chicane, where his teammate Sequay lost it on his final run in Q2. And Nebo needs a Branko lap, and Nebo needs to be perfect to the chicane. Oh, comes so close to the wall, and he hits the wall on the left. Does a Nebo? How much damage will that car take? His Branko lap is still, it's going to be P6. So definitely some work to do for Nebo. Had a huge moment there on that exit, hitting the wall on his left, but sets that Branko lap at 113.5, nowhere near challenging the competitive runners now. Looks like Inati has abandoned his hot lap attempt. He's passed, as he does that, by this man, Mfundo. Let's see how he fares now. Look at the improve, takes liberties into that chicane, and his split by the end of Sector 2 for the Alpine will be a 44.1, but he's going slower. Definitely going slower is Mfundo. Slower by a factor of a second, so definitely a lot of work to do. That red light is flashing. He opens up that rear wing, but we might just be seeing Mfundo bringing it back home here, because he is definitely has way too much time to make up. And yes, that is indeed an in-lap, as with 5 minutes of this qualifying session to go, Sequay tops the timesheet. It's provisional pole for the champion, for the Haas driver. He holds P1 spot from Zotao, and Brakeaway in P2 and 3 respectively. Mfundo is currently 4th, as Buddha 5th, and Nebo 7th in the pit lane, and Inati is just beginning what he hopes to be his first representative lap. Teppo Temba did invalidate earlier. Brown Boy will be racing. Haha! Liddy T will be racing, and Quackle and D-West will be racing. Here's the first chicane for Inati. Takes so many liberties, almost has a moment with the wall on the right, but he will take that Sector 1 split with a 20.745. Nails the apex of the left-hander, right-hander, bit of an issue. 4th gear opens up that rear wing and sends that Aston Martin hurtling towards this second chicane. It's gear 5. Oh, invalidate! Trying to exit that chicane. It's an invalidated lap. But it looks like he might still have enough fuel on board, the Aston Martin driver. He might just have enough in the tank to give it another go without having to come all the way back into the pits. What about Zotal? Let's catch up with him. Looking to challenge Sequay. I would have you know that Seppo Temba is immediately ahead of this Alpine driver with just under 4 minutes of his qualifying session to go. It is Zotaro versus Sequay thus far for the battle for P1, and Zotaro with a huge moment sends him straight into the wall, and Zotaro has crashed out of Q3 here. He sends it straight into the wall, and he will hope that the rest of the session is dominated rather by no one else pretty much, and that he can hang on to the front row here. What about Seppo Temba? He's making his way now towards the final chicane. Zotal with a huge mistake, crashing his car out. Seppo Temba will grin from ear to ear. This is a potential chance for the Ferrari driver to pip Zotal to P2, and it's a P3 for the Ferrari driver, 112.365. Zotal, with that huge mistake, is still the only man to set a time in the 111s alongside Sequay, who did that in Q2. Remember, Sequay was all the way into the 110s already. Seppo Temba will have a little bit of a fist pump in that car, but he knows he has a golden opportunity to put together a classic lap to potentially even challenge Sequay here. Oh, Esbuda into the chicane, taking liberties, invalidates Esbuda, with so little time left, will now have to bring it all the way around. He's got the time. Hopefully he has enough fuel on board. Zolonso says, crash in the comment section. Let's see how his teammate Mfundo will fare. Of course, that was a chicane where we just saw Esbuda and Valade, but Mfundo keeps it together. He's improving his Mfundo by a factor of a 1/10.5 of a second. Sector 2 now for the Alpine driver. Let's see how he'll fare into the second chicane. The chicanes are where the invalidations come. The chicanes are where the time penalties rack up in the race proper. And Mfundo takes so many liberties coming into that second chicane, but he manages to keep it together and will send that car absolutely hurtling towards the hairpin, and of course we'll hope against all hope that it is no issues with this final part of the track. Mfundo is of course going to be hoping to pit Zotal and Seppo Temba here. It's the final chicane. Took so many liberties did there, of course. That is the wall that took out Ennevo, but Mfundo keeps it together, and Mfundo will cross the line. P3! He pips Seppo Temba, improved by 0.3. It's a 112.131. A solid effort from the Alpine driver, tucks right behind his teammate, who had set a time of that 111. So, Sequay in pole position. As things stand, a lot of this session still to go, and Neville improves marginally, 112.551 for him. Let's hop on board back with the champion. Romeo, aka Mandla, will be taking part in this race. We're on board now with the champion. Can he even improve and go quicker? The answer is yes! He's 0.3 quicker than his previous best time by the end of Sector 2. We are watching a potential classic here with just about 30 seconds or so of this qualifying session to go. It's Sequay, it's the champion towards the final chicane. Will he nail it? He came a cropper here in Q2. The answer is no, not this time around. He keeps it together. No issues. Sequay will open up the rear wing. Sequay will cross the line. 110.274. An absolutely insane effort from the champion. He is so far ahead of the pack. And has a moment with the wall there, but the team won't care. They will be pumping their fists. They will be celebrating because Haas is on the front row. Haas is in pole position. The champion is at the front once again. His teammate and Neville brings it back into the pit, and that is your grid. Sequay will start in pole position from Zotal in P2, and Mfundo, what an effort from him. A McLaren P2 and 3. What a day from Alpine to P2 and 3 for Mfundo there. Seppo Temba representing Ferrari P4, taking that spot in the second row alongside Mfundo. Ben Kobe and Enlevo occupy the third row in P5 and 6. Esbuda is 7th, and Inati will start in P8 of this grid. What a sensational qualifying. What a performance from the champion once again. Absolutely insane. Escalo says 3/10 from a 109. Yep. 1.7 seconds quicker, says Crash. Insane. Absolutely insane. Tindo says, what the heck is Sequay doing in Tier 1? Insane, says Smirks Django. Yeah, that was a sensational effort from the champion there, who will start another race from pole position, leading the pack, as Tindo quite enjoyed seeing Zotel send that car into the wall. Zotifi, says Tindo. Zolonzo. It's not right that Zolonzo sounds nice, says Muspano in the comment section. Who I'm pretty sure is, well, perhaps in some sort of radio communication with Alpine, sending messages of encouragement to Zotal. Perhaps Zotal is getting voice notes from Muspano over the team radio, telling him to keep it together. That 111.934. Still a solid effort from Zotal, but of course, the man of the moment, the man to beat, is none other than Seaclay, who tops the timesheets with a 110.274. Crash says, Fanatec, no one will beat Seaclay until y'all get proper racing equipment.
Isihloko kahle man. Baxolele sihle, baxolele usanele right man. But at least abodi works bakhona nabo Romeo yabo. Maybe Romeo anga shaying imiretenyana yabo. Who knows? Maybe Romeo can find himself moma angas. Moma points. Aha.
Yes, it's raining. It's going to be a dramatic start, potentially. Well, that'll throw the cat amongst the pigeons. As it looks, it might just be in a start on intermediate tires. And with the grid having, expanded somewhat, and more drivers taking part in the start of this race, we could see some early drama out here in these rainy conditions. But I tell you what, I am here for it. I am here for it. Do you guys reckon Zotal and Mfundo can hang on to those podium places? Ha! Mandla, S. Mindlo is here. Liddy T is here. D-Wax. Oh, man, what a grid we have now. What a race we have in prospect. Less than 30 seconds to go. Even Brown Boy is here. So expect him to cause some havoc of his own as far as that trademark precision and ruthless aggression on track is concerned. Brown Boy is one to watch closely, potentially fighting his way from the back to challenge a lot of these drivers here. Yes, Liddy is here, Brown Boy is here, Ngawako, D-Wax, Mandla, S. Mindlo, Romeo, he's here for AlphaTauri. And we're going to get, of course, our trademark formation lap for these drivers to get these tires up to optimum working conditions. It's intermediate tires to start the race. And if the rain is forgiving, so to speak, if we have an opportunity for these drivers to switch to a set of slick tires, then the timing, of course, of those of the decision to pit, that'll be something to watch very, very closely. Van Kobe just disqualifying himself from the session. Brown Boy is here. Of course, he's commandeered Liddy's McLaren today, but he is racing on behalf of Red Bull, so don't be surprised. Romeo is here. We'll start P15. Do not be fooled. Romeo represents AlphaTauri. Liddy T represents McLaren. P14. Oh, start for him as a huge moment sends it into the wall. Struggling for grip, for tire temperature there is Liddy. So he's going to have to watch his temperament on the throttle there. D-Wax will start P13. M. Shangu, who unfortunately was disqualified at the beginning of this qualifying session, will start P12. Titus, former champion, P11 for him. Josh, aka Damnesia, will start right in the points in P10. But he will fight his way up. Tabiso, P9 for him. And Inati will start 8th, Espuda 7th, and Nabo 6th, and Bankobi 5th, and Seppo Temba in 4th. And Fundo, of course, is on the second row, P3 for the Alpine driver. And Zotal will start P2. Sikle has positioned his car perfectly. What about Mfundo? Not quite. Getting it right. Seppo Temba is trying to get that positioning perfect. And the drivers towards the back now will also be following suit. Now, the grid will start mainly on intermediate tires. Brown Boy seems to have gotten his start right. It doesn't look like that'll be the case for Letty. Yeah, of course, the angle was all wrong there. Yeah. Seppo Temba is my favorite to crash. He's always up there. It's 4 lights, it's 5 lights, and this is the only time drivers look forward to the lights going out. And Fundo has to drive through penalty for a jump start. Nightmare for Mfundo. And now he's been overtaken by almost 2 cars coming into turn 1. And Fundo with a nightmare. And Sikle hands on to P1 from Zotal. It's Seppo Temba who's gained a place, as has Bankobi. No, it's Mfundo in P2, rather Zotal is the one who's been stumbling. Zotal is all the way down in P6. A nightmare start, and it looks like there's a bit of carnage. Sikle with an almighty spin. Yellow flag in section 1, and Fundo still has that time that's right through penalty, remember. Seppo Temba is in P2. D-Wax has crashed out in that melee. Oh, the safety car is out before the end of the first lap, and it's pandemonium. It's absolute pandemonium out here. Sikle finds himself down in P9. We saw him have that almighty spin, remember. Bankobi P3, and Lebo is currently 4th under safety car as these drivers look to come back. Zotal losing 3 positions. 3 positions. Carnage Ziakala, says Kid K in the comment section. Zotal will be kicking himself, but he's going to look to, well, recover now. It's a recovery driving prospect for the Alpine driver. S. Buddha gains a place. P6 for him. Cepiso gains 2. And Sikle now has to relinquish that position. Oh, and as he slows down, Titus crashes into him. Oh, man, has Titus taken some damage there? Tindo says Sikle sliding like a penguin on ice. Welcome back to Tier 1, says Crash in the comment section. The ghost of Josh, aka Damnesia, now has to find its way back. Seppo Temba took some damage there and has to relinquish all those positions from the start of the race. Remember, Mfundo leads the race, but has to contend with a drive-through penalty. Sikle will be seething at that race start, which has seen him lose so much, down in P8 currently. It is a nightmare start as he looks to get past the ghost of Josh, aka Damnesia, but he's just going to need to tuck in behind. No overtaking, remember, on the safety car. Oh, yeah, he absolutely seething as Sikle. But what about some of the back markers? Romeo, aka Mandla, 3 places gained in that melee of lap 1. Liddy has, seems to have gained 1 place. Well, Mandla and Shengu were having a bit of a moment there, but Mandla has to kind of make way and make sure he does not affect any illegal overtakes under a safety car. And Brown Boy, courtesy of that lap 1 DNF by D-Wax, Brown Boy finds himself in P15 currently. Oh man, carnage. Absolute carnage at the start of this race here. Absolutely dramatic start. If you've just joined us, we're completing the second lap under safety car. And the race leader is Mfundo, courtesy of some lap one drama, but that race lead for Mfundo is well, it's in vain, if you can say it that way, because he was too eager on the race start, and it was a jump start from the Alpine driver, so he still has to serve a drive-through penalty. Unfortunately, heartbreakingly so, it looks like Malusi the Malusi, Mello the Mello, Mercedes the Mercedes was not able to join this race in time to take part. And, well, the rest of these 35 laps, of course, will take place without Malusi the Malusi, sadly. So, essentially, the person in the net lead of this race, courtesy of Mfundo's time penalty, is Ban Colby for McLaren. And he's going to have to keep Nebo at bay. So, yeah, he had a very dramatic qualifying session from Q1 through to Q3. But Ban Colby will be grinning from ear to ear. Will be so happy, will Ban Colby, that he now has a potential shot at what would be a fantastic, absolutely classically memorable race win if Ban Colby can keep it together. But of course, it's quite a big if. Remember, did mention those DNFs that Ban Colby has suffered this season. His best race result so far this season is P5 that he managed in Monaco. And remember, Ban Colby finished that race in Monaco with a broken wing, courtesy of that last lap crash. Now, in Zoltile, I trust tonight, says Christopher Crash Sekal Kize. The safety car is coming in, and Ban Colby is gonna look to give Mfundo a lot to think about. And as I say that, Mfundo stands at Ban Colby as a terrible exit coming out of that final chicane. Oh, he's passed by another. Will they be passed? No, they can't pass. Remember, they have to pass at a certain point. They're only allowed to pass at a certain point. So Ban Colby will count his lucky start there. Oh, there's a huge moment between Nebo, who goes completely off track. Oh, and Nebo cuts the corner. 10-second time penalty for Nebo. Look at Seaglade's fight back. He's right there in the thick of it. He's all the way up to P5 as the champion. Tucks right behind his teammate, who slips and falls further and further down. Oh, there's a huge moment. It looks like it's Buddha. Was that his Buddha who hit the wall? Oh, yes, he did. And Seaglade's now up to P3. Seaglade's up to P3 before the end of this first lap after the safety car. It looks like Espuda might have suffered some damage. Espuda is having an absolute nightmare out here. He's ahead of Tupiso as things stand. But Seasley, who was languishing in P8 and P9, is now up to the podium places before the end of his first lap after the safety car. And guess what, Ban Colby? You were P2 but now you've fallen 6 seconds behind. Look at that gap. Seasley is absolutely insane. And as they come towards the hairpin, Seasley will bide his time. And perhaps if Ban Colby goes wide, Seasley will take a snatch at this P2 spot. Behind Seasley, of course, is Espuda, who had issues of his own, and it looks like Josh is trying to fight his way back. Oh my gosh, what an absolutely insane lap 4 we have here. But look at Mfundo as he will cross the line, of course, to set the fastest lap so far. Expect to see that lap time falling and falling. But oh my word, what a recovery, Seasley. As you've mentioned, he will absolutely fight back, and fight back he is. Right now, his battle, his fight, his tussle is with none other than Ban Colby for that P2 spot. Ban Colby, who looked to have this race potentially in a commanding position, has fallen 6.2 seconds behind Mfundo. Look at that. Taking completely different lines are the McLaren and Haas drivers, as following them, 1.7 seconds behind, are Espuda in the Espuda and the Aston Martin of former champion Titus. Now Ban Colby playing it very, very carefully into that chicane. Seasley has a bit of a twitch coming out on that exit. That gap is still less than half a second between these two. Can Seasley get this move done? Meanwhile, a little further back, Brump is into the points, having started so far back. Liddy has crashed out. Liddy becomes the second driver to crash out. It's safety car once again. And Mfundo still hasn't served his drive-through penalty, and the safety car will come out again. Liddy, the second driver to crash out here, and Ban Colby, under safety car, will hang on to that P2 spot. But it's good news for Ban Colby, because this will allow the grid to bunch up once again. As Seasley was hunting down that P2 spot again, Liddy will be kicking himself. Liddy will be heartbroken, seething, livid. All of those words, as Buddha has hung on to P4 here for the hopes and dreams of that Williams car. Former champion Titus already racking up a 5-second time penalty, potentially for a collision that might have happened off camera. 5-second time penalty there. Tsepo Temba, currently P6 for Ferrari. Remember, he had to pit early, but has managed to keep himself in the reckoning, especially considering the penalties for the likes of Mfundo and Taita. And level behind him, Zoltau, who was in such a commanding position at the start of this race, finds himself in P7. It's lap 6 of 35, and Lebo went widely off the mark there. We saw Lebo pretty much leave the track. I think it was coming into turn 1. 10-second time penalty for cutting corners. And Fundo is in the comment section lamenting that drive-through penalty that he still has to serve. And Brown Boy, look at that, P9 for a man who started at the very back of his grid. It's a classic recovery drive for Brown Boy. If we see a couple more safety cars and Brown Boy manages to fight his way up the pack, look out for this man, currently in the McLaren. P9 for him. Romeo, a.k.a. Mandla, a.k.a. X-Mindlo. P10 for the AlphaTauri driver, currently in the colors of the senior team, that being Red Bull. M. Shengu has a shot at a potential points finish here today, but it's currently P11 for the Mercedes driver. Josh, aka Damnesia, does not seem to have alleviated his network issues, still ghosting around the track here, potentially causing havoc. And Tsepiso will look to, well, we'll thank his lucky stars that the safety car came out again, and is just trudging along, making his way, hurtling, rushing towards the back of the pack here, to make sure that he takes his place as this race will restart again. 2 safety cars, 2 DNFs, Liddy and Ngawako, aka D-Wax, tragically crashed out here to bring up the first safety car. And of course, this safety car is because of that DNF that Liddy has had just now. So just the single championship point that Liddy has managed to amass this far, under pressure as the race calendar ticks along and ticks on. It's race 9 officially, but remember, we still have to see these drivers racing on the likes of the Circuit of the Americas and Silverstone, but that will come later on in the season, of course, as we are now, of course, back into Tier 1 racing. Tsepiso has caught up to the back of the pack, and now the grid awaits Inati to make his way back, as Van Kobe will now be looking to keep things together and not get such a terrible exit out of that chicane. We're waiting for the stewards now to give us the message that the safety car will come in, but just waiting for Inati, who is making his way, of course, to the back of this pack. Dramatic start out here. Most of this race thus far has been under a safety car. We want to see, of course, some good, hard, clean racing for the rest of this race. Lap 8 of 35 under safety car. What a day for Titus. Remember, Titus started outside the top 10. But he finds himself in P5 now. And if that 5-second time penalty that Titus has, if that time penalty is something that he can successfully contest, then, well, we're looking at a potentially brilliant day for Titus here. But, of course, that is a big if. The stewards will, of course, have to deliberate and see whether or not he can survive and come out unscathed. And Nebo started off so well, but went so far off track. 10-second time penalty for him. And Zotao, whose hopes and dreams rest, rather, with a lot of you in the comment section. Well, he's in P7. Got his work cut out. Got his work cut out. Tindo was asking, and Fundo, how on earth are you typing and driving at the same time?
Mfundo ngathi mfundo phela manje mfundo ngabe uyayilika le race mara fanele sebe le drive to penalty yabo. Phela manje Alpine, it could have been a potential classic mara wethu ama Alpine nje ngathi bayafanya nyana yabo. Angazi bazoyenza.
Yes, and Gasly indeed. How they'll manage to improve on that and keep things together. The safety car is back at the end of this lap. It's going to be Van Kobe versus Mfundo versus Seaclay, who fought his way back into the reckoning. Estalo says, bad season start for Liddy, hoping that he recovers. as the safety car has come in, and Seekley is fighting versus Brakeaway, remember? That is Seekley behind, and it looks like Esbuda had to took an early braking there. And Fundo has a bit of a moment. Look at that twitch that Fundo is having, but Brakeaway is not able to take advantage. He manages to hang on to P1, does Fundo. And, Brakeaway has a twitch of his own. Seekley says thank you very much. He will not need a second invitation. Will Esbuda take advantage? Yes, he will. Even Titus is in the reckoning of the Aston Martin. Brakeaway, nightmare restart, struggling for grip, struggling for tire temperature, and the rest of these drivers will need no second invitation. Can Titus keep it together? Can Titus overtake Brakeaway? Oh, look at that. He gets overtaken himself by Enlevel. They go side by side. Enlevel's ahead of Titus. Enlevel, brilliant racing. It's Zotal now. They touch, and Enlevel goes off track again. Here comes Zotal on the inside, and he managed to go side by side now with Titus as he hangs on. Zotal is up to P6. Look at that. This is so close. And even Mandla is in the reckoning over here, and he goes on the outside as they come through this hairpin. It is absolutely tight racing. This is the perspective as far as Mandla is concerned. Look at the gap between Mandla and Zapito. He will not care too much about that because even Zotal is on the verge here. They tuck and form an absolutely tight DRS train. Zotal is going to look to take advantage of the McLarens here, and Fundo, of course, crosses the line first. He still has to serve the drive-through penalty. Titus is chasing Zotal. It is oh man, Titus seems to be falling far behind. Titus might have had a huge issue. He's down to P11. He's been surpassed P12. Titus might have had a huge spin over there, but thankfully he keeps his car on track. It's not a DNF for Titus, who is looking so good in this battle between this mini train here that we have here, stretching all the way from Zotal up to oh, is that Zotal? Oh, is that Brakeaway? It's Brakeaway who looks to have kissed the wall, and Brakeaway, who was in P2, finds himself in P7. He's having a nightmare of a race as Brakeaway. Absolutely terrible race for him. But Brakeaway, look at Brakeaway, who started in the back of this race and is now chasing a podium spot. It is absolutely sensational driving for the Red Bull driver today, who has commandeered the colors of that Red Bull. And Levo is holding his own P5 for the Haas driver, Seekley's teammate. And what a fight, what a scrap we have between all of these drivers. Sensational driving, sensational racing out here in lap 10 of 35 out here in Canada. P4 for Brakeaway. Look at that. Absolutely brilliant stuff. And Fundo speeding in the pit lane. Oh, and Fundo serving his drive-through penalty. He racks up another penalty as he was serving, of course, that drive-through. That'll send Esbuda clean through. And Seekley did not have to fight for that because he knew that he knew that Mfundo just had to serve that penalty as he does now. And Fundo comes out all the way in P9, currently fighting with Tepo Temba seemingly, and coming out of turn 1, he's fighting, but he's not keeping it together. Tepo Temba passes his teammate Tapiso, so now that is Tapiso has to deal with the headache in the form of Mfundo, who, as Crash has rightly mentioned, was setting the quickest lap so far. Oh, there's a Ferrari going wide. Who is that Red Bull? It's Mandla, who seems to be facing the wrong way, and Fundo goes completely off track. He has to contend, remember, with that time penalty, and now he tucks right behind the two Ferraris. Oh, Mandla looks to have disturbed the path of all three of these drivers, but Mandla is down now to P11 as things stand. It's drama all the way out, and this unforgiving track is serving up the time penalties. Zapotemba, Inati, and Mshangu with 3-second time penalties, presumably because of those incursions as far as those chicanes and track limits are concerned. This is what it looks like from the perspective of Mfundo, who is now fighting the two Ferraris, that being Zapotemba and Tapiso in P7 and 8 respectively. They go side by side, the two Ferraris. Will they swap positions? The answer is yes, seemingly. But who has the inside line? Ooh. Tapiso racks up a time penalty courtesy of Zapotemba diving into that chicane. And Fundo is close, and Fundo is out of battery himself. He takes a peek on the outside, but he's not close enough to get that move done. As these three fight, Inati is into the reckoning. P10 currently. absolutely sensational. Meanwhile, Brown Boy is up to P3. A man who started at the back of this grid has had a sensational day, a sensational drive, an absolutely beautiful effort to find himself in P3. And the longer this race goes on, especially if we see another safety car, expect Brown Boy to have something to say as far as a potential race win is concerned. Cepiso is crashed out. Cepiso becomes the third driver to crash out in this race. The safety car is out. The safety car is out. The field will bunch up again for the third time in this race. And Brown Boy, who started at the back of this field, will have a chance at fighting it out for a potential race win. It is C-Clay leading this race from Esbuda, 4 seconds behind under safety car. Brown Boy is currently P3 from Enabo in 4th. Zoltal is 5th. Van Kobe has had a nightmare and under safety car decides to come into the pits potentially for a wing change. It's P6 for him, but he's going to drop down as the rest of the grid passes him. And sure enough, Tepo Temba and Mfundo will need no second invitation. It's only a tire change, so no wing change for Van Kobe. Josh, aka Damnesia, the ghost thereof, is running P10. Mandla, who had that huge moment disturbing the lines of the Ferraris that we saw earlier, currently P11. M. Shengu is in 12th spot from Titus in P13. So Titus, former champion, not having such a great day so far. We saw him fighting it out, remember, with that huge dramatic train, but he has recently just come into the pits. So this is good news. The fact that we're under safety car, Titus will have a chance to catch up and fight again. And remember, having come into the pits, Titus has served that 5-second time penalty. So now Titus is essentially starting on a clean slate, provided he does not incur any warnings as far as track limits are concerned, because already those penalties are starting to pile up. And Nebo, 10 seconds for corner cutting, and Mfundo has that 5 seconds for speeding in the pit lane. Seppo Temba, Inati, and Mshengu, the other drivers currently under driving with those time penalties. Cepiso, the disappointed, the heartbroken Cepiso, says yeah, nay in the comment section. He was potentially in line for a decent points finish, but in heartbreaking fashion, crashed out dramatically. And now the hopes of Ferrari rest on the shoulders of this man, Seppo Temba, who has it in him. He has all that and more within him to potentially give it a good go for a fantastic points finish for Ferrari out here today. Time penalty to contend with, remember, so it's not going to be plain sailing. Mfundo, P7. Inati is currently 8th. Ban Kobe, 9th, having come into the pits. And Mandla looks to have overtaken the ghost of Josh, damn Nisha, to take that final point spot, P10. Nope, he relinquishes that position. Illegal overtake under safety car. So Mandla, Esamindlo, Romeo will have to tuck into P11. Crash reckons Brown Boy will pass Esbuda on the restart. Brown Boy with, by far and away the most impressive drive of the day thus far. We will not be surprised to see him get that move done cleanly. It's the third safety car after Cepiso crashed out in dramatic fashion here. So let's see what the likes of Brown Boy and Esbuda can do to give C-Clay a headache or two. Van Kobe has been in prime position twice, but he has hated the restarts. Van Kobe has struggled heating up those tires and getting a semblance of grip there. Particularly at the restarts. So we're going to have to see how he fares from here on out. What about Zotal? It's P5. Brakeaway versus Brown Boy, says Escalo.
Mara maybe Chris right, maybe Brown Boy angawina dai yabo. Angadlula Esbuda first. Usithamanga ngenza mistake nyana Brown Boy. Angawina dai.
Yes, perhaps. Perhaps, well, that would be fantastic. Would be a memorable race win. We've seen Brown Boy and Seafway fight it out in previous races. So he's quite a capable man, quite a capable driver, is Brown Boy. Driving for Red Bull, remember. His best result of the season was that P2 finish in Baku. The most recent time that these drivers were able to race. So, yeah, he definitely has got it in him. He can definitely put it together and keep it together. Would not be surprised at all if Brown Boy were to do exactly that. Titus and Mshengu have had a collision. And Titus, it's another time penalty. Oh, man. Did Titus go into the back of Mshengu there? Oh, man. Oh, man. Titus and Mshengu having a bit of a moment there. And Titus, who had gotten rid of that time penalty earlier, finds himself now having accumulated another time penalty. So he will be kicking himself, perhaps. Well, he will hope that it's a penalty that he could possibly contest. So time will tell there. Titus currently running at the back of his pack. P13, the former champion. 20 laps of racing. We most certainly hope that we've seen the last of the safety car because it is coming back into the pits. And Seaflay will back the pack up. And we'll see exactly if he can keep it together here. Let's get a sense of the tire age. Remember, Seaflay, Espuda, and Labo, Zotal have not pitted. But as I say that, Seaflay still in the march on Espuda. Look at that gap, 1.2 seconds. Caught them napping. He sends it to Seaflay straight into turn 1. And Espuda has some catching up to do because the gap is 1.4 seconds and Seaflay exits the second quarter. Oh, look at that. The gap between Espuda and Brown Boy is about a second and a half currently. So much work for these top runners to do. Brown Boy, who's looking to have a memorable race here, has to keep Anebo at bay. The half driver, Seaflay's teammate, is hot on his heels, hot on his tail. Can smell the fumes coming out of the back of that Papaya Orange McLaren. Remember, Brown Boy is a representative of Red Bull, don't you forget. So Anebo is absolutely sending it. He's chasing, and it looks like behind these two, there's a titanic tussle between Mfundo and Sepultemba. Zotal doesn't look to be having such a fantastic time as far as race restarts are concerned. Can the two Alpines give the Ferraris something to think about here? Mfundo, 6/10 behind. And his teammate Zotal not quite managing to keep it together. P7 for Zotal in the Alpine. Look at that gap between the two Alpines. Of course, no DRS thus far. That red light doesn't necessarily signal a diminishing battery. Of course, those lights do flash in these intermediate rainy conditions. Let's see if Mfundo can keep it together here. Earlier on, Mfundo was the fastest man on track. He was setting those purple laps. And this is a recovery drive in prospect for the Alpine driver. He's less than a second behind Sepultemba. Can he keep it together? He will hope and pray for a mistake on the part of the Ferrari driver. And as I say that, he takes about a 2/10 of that gap. And Zotal has fallen further behind. Zotal is 3 seconds behind his teammate. Man, nightmare day. Further on, it's a fight between Brown Boy and Espuda. Brown Boy has overtaken Espuda. Brown Boy is up to P2. Brown Boy, the driver who started this race at the back of the pack, is now chasing the race leader, Seaflay. Look at that. The gap is about 4 seconds now. It's been a sensational drive from Brown Boy. If you've just joined us, he started at the back of the pack, and right now, he is thinking about a potential race win if, and it's a big if, he can trim this gap. And level one Espuda have just exchanged positions. Oh, look at that. It's a half sandwich with Brown Boy sandwiched in between the that half sandwich of Seaflay and Enlevo. Oh, overtakes, fights, clashes all over the place. And Brown Boy, unfortunately, racks up a time penalty for track limit infringement. Oh, man. That'll be absolutely devastating for him. So he will now hope that Seakley in the half ahead of him can also accrue that time penalty. CO, Spuda, and Tempotemba will they make a little bit of contact? Ooh, Tempotemba has to concede there. And he's down in P5 as Buddha is hanging on for dear life here. He lost his position to Enlebo. He is potentially at risk of being overtaken by the Ferrari here. And as Buddha, remember, who has not pitted thus far, is hanging on for dear life. Oh my word. Bankovi's in a great position to go to the end, says Christopher Crash. Remember, Bankovi did come in, and most of this pack have not pitted. Of course, if Bankovi can keep it together, especially without penalties here, he will definitely be in prime position. Just 5-lap old intermediate tires versus the likes of Seakley and another on 17-lap old intermediate tires. Looks like further down the grid, the Aston Martins have swapped positions. Yeah, Inati Inati and Titus were on the verge of swapping positions, rather. Let's go back to this battle between Temba and Buddha as they screen towards turn 1. Temba gets that move done. It's P4 for the Ferrari driver. Buddha will be kicking himself, looking to hopefully get that move done. These tires can go to the end, reckons Tindo. No need to pit, remember. They are not obligated to change tires, as would be the case in when racing under, of course, dry conditions. Buddha racks up a time penalty, trying to somehow steal the march and get that overtake and get that position back from Temba. But as I say that, Buddha now has to think about Mfundo, who is on the verge of an overtake. Mfundo concedes and hangs back as they come through this chicane as we get this beautiful shot from the very bottom of that bullions of Buddha, and Mfundo will bide his time, hopefully looking to get that overtake done at another point of the track. Meanwhile, look at that, it's Bankovi. Oh, Inati is crashed out. Inati becomes the 4th driver to crash out. Oh, the safety car is out again. It's another safety car. Bankovi was on the verge of a potential move on Total, but they will all now have to keep it together and bunch up again. It's another safety car. Seakley finally comes into the pit. Most of the top runners are into the pit. Seppo Temba is now in the race lead. Now, as they come into the pits, remember, Bankovi had not pitted. This is an ideal scenario. It is absolutely a beautiful scenario for Bankovi, but remember how many times we saw him struggle at the race restarts. Twice now we saw Bankovi lose the initiative at the race restarts, but now he's in a prime position. He will now lead the pack as they look to catch up to the back of the Ferrari of Seppo Temba, who has taken the lead courtesy of all those pits. Zotal is now coming out of the pits, fresh set of intermediate tires for him. And Titus comes into the pits for a fresh set on his behalf. Or rather, coming out of the pits, he's just come out, so he's making his way to turn 1. So Inati becomes the 4th driver to crash out in heartbreaking fashion. Faka Guess FC says, man, Seakley keeps having a hard time establishing the gap because these safety cars keep on compromising that gap. And they bunch up again and again and again. Fresh set of tires for everyone from Seakley. Of course, Mandla, interestingly enough, has managed to take advantage of the drama out here on track. Comes out just behind the champion and the championship leader, Seakley, in P4. Bankovi managed just to stay ahead of the Haas driver. Seakley was coming out of the pit lane just as Bankovi was making his way through turn 2. So he managed to stay ahead of the championship leader. But Bankovi now has a 3rd bite of the cherry, of potentially taking advantage of being so far ahead at the restart of a race. Lap 21 of 35. Hopefully this is our last time, last lap under safety car, and it'll come back and we can get racing once again. Tindo, right on cue, says Mandla to 5, and Geke, it'll only last 2 laps or 1. Tindo has no faith in Mandla's ability to keep it together and hang on. Bit of a conversation taking place whether or not these tires can could go through to the end. Seppo Temba now, by some margin, the man with the oldest tires, 13 lap old. But we have seen Seppo Temba keep it together, albeit under dry conditions, with a very old set of tires, and still give the grid a lot to think about. The safety car is coming in this lap, and Seppo Temba on those older intermediate tires will have to contend with Van Kobe, whose own set of tires are 8 laps old, soon to be 9. Sinkley on a fresh set. Behind him, Mandla, of course, an older set. So what we could potentially see here is, well, if Seppo Temba can get a good escape here, and it looks like he's absolutely sending it because Ben Kobe has been caught napping. 2 seconds almost. Look at that gap. Seppo Temba, he has absolutely sent it. Sinkley will waste no time. Sinkley tucks in behind. Sinkley goes and takes a sneak on the outside, but he thinks against it. He will hold off with Sinkley coming into turns 1 and 2. But as he does that, Seppo Temba gets the advantage, and the gap is now 2.5 seconds. Seppo Temba, fantastic restart. Caught Van Kobe completely napping. Sinkley is now 3/10 behind the McLaren. And the longer he gets held up, remember, then the greater the potential advantage. Sinkley gets that move done up to P2. Hunts down the Ferrari driver. Can Romeo pass Van Kobe? Yes, they're side by side. Romeo has the inside line. Van Kobe manages to hang on. But Romeo will look to have the advantage. And Romeo's ahead. Romeo's up into the podium places. And behind him is Bromboy. And Lebo crashes out. And Lebo has crashed out here in Sector 2. He becomes the 5th driver. It's a yellow flag, but thankfully it doesn't look like the safety car is coming out. Look at Bromboy. Having had to come into the pits, he's back up into the reckoning. He has that time penalty, but it's P5 for Bromboy. Yellow flag in Sector 2. Sinkley is not carrying Haas's hopes. Oh, safety car again. Oh my word, another safety car is out here. We've had so many safety cars for each of these drivers, of course, in these rainy conditions. The marshals hopefully will clear that Haas quickly, and we can get back to having a proper race out here. As Buddha is now in P6 as things stand. And Mfundo, once again under safety car, is up to P7. Seppo Temba is opting to, well, hang on here. Track position, of course, is absolutely crucial. And, yeah, look at that. Mandla is hanging on to P3 here, just behind Sinkley, but he has that time penalty to contend with. So Van Kobe, who's lost the initiative again at the race restart, is really not having such a great time. It's quite possible that Van Kobe's race setup was not calibrated at all for these conditions. He might have only looked as far ahead as the end of qualifying, Van Kobe, and not optimized his car for the wet, rainy conditions. Bromboy P5, Espuda P6, and Fundo 7th, currently, as things stand. And Mshengu, 6 seconds worth of time penalties, is currently P8. Zotao all the way in P9.
Gustano was with the safety car in the full tank. I want to safety car. I want to know when I petrol. Why want to sky in the petrol with safety car once? Morning in the safety car around.
Yes, indeed, it's been going around for quite some time. We spent quite a lot of the race behind the safety car. Well, he was not worried about the fuel price, I'll tell you that. As Carlo rightly asks. Titus is in P10. He needs to hang on here to stay within the points. And he needs to give Zotao well, a hell of a fight here. Crash says if only Bromboy was in front of Sinkley on the last restart, he would have kept him at bay for a while. 100%. And now Bromboy, having had to come into the pits, of course, lost some ground and finds himself to P5. But now that everyone will be bunched up again, expect him to also fight his way back into the reckoning for a potential podium spot, even with the penalties. He's been by far the most impactful and the most definitely the most aggressive driver as far as overtakes are concerned. He started at the back, at some point find himself really fighting it out in the top. So let's see what Brown Boy can do by the end of this race. At 9 or so laps, hopefully we get 10 laps of proper, uninterrupted racing. It's been so tough for these drivers. We've lost 5 of them. And Neville, Inati, Tapiso, Luddy, and Ngawako, aka D-Wax. Those have been the drivers to crash out. And the ghost of Josh, aka Damnesia, has been haunting these streets out here in Canada. Lap 24:35, hopefully we get the word from race control that the safety car will make its way back in. And, well, let's see what Seaclay can do. He was held up a little bit at the most recent race restart, and as I say that, the safety car is in at the end of this lap. You know what I'd love to see? I'd love to see the weather well and truly dry up at some point, perhaps for the final 5 or so laps. And then it becomes a game of chicken to see who will blink first and opt for a set of slick tires. Wouldn't that be something? Safety car is in. We saw Seppo Temba catch Ban Kobe completely napping last time out. He sends it. But Seaclay was not fooled, not too much, not in this instance. Seppo Temba, with the significantly older tires, gets a clean exit out of that chicane. That gap is about 1.2 seconds. As they hurdle, looks like someone lost a piece. There's a piece of debris flying from someone a little bit further behind. But Romeo looks to hang on to P3 here as he chases Seaclay, whose gap between himself and Seppo Temba is already 1.6 seconds. Remember, Seppo Temba on the much older tires is driving sensationally well. Oh, M. Shangu has crashed out. Is that M. Shangu? Please don't tell me we'll get another safety car here. It's yellow flags in sector 1. We've lost another driver. It's M. Shangu who has crashed out here. And Seppo Temba is maintaining a gap of 1.7 seconds. Sensational restart from the Ferrari driver on significantly older tires. 17 lap old intermediate tires Seppo Temba has, and look at that gap already. But remember, Seaclay does not have a time penalty to contend with. But Seaclay being Seaclay, Brakeaway being Brakeaway, he will want to get this move done on track. Meanwhile, Ban Kobe is right on the neck, on the tail, hanging on to that rear wing of that Red Bull for today, that being Mandla. Romeo of Shangu, of course, leaving the session, having just crashed out. Now, that means that all these drivers can finish in the points. They need to bring their car home. Mfundo and Espuda are having a huge clash a little bit further on. We're hanging on here to see Ban Kobe can get this move done on Romeo, but it doesn't look like that'll be the case because the gap between these two is about a second now. Espuda fighting back to Mfundo here, the Williams driver. Oh, hits the back of the Alpine driver, and Mfundo has a huge moment, almost crashes completely into the wall. Espuda relents, concedes, and hangs back for Mfundo to catch himself back together. Espuda late on the brakes there, and Espuda absolutely sending it. But how much damage will the Williams driver have suffered? Zotal would have slammed on the brakes there. Meanwhile, in the battle for the race lead, it is Seaclay. He is now within 2 tenths. Remember, Seppo Temba fought valiantly at the restart. He goes wide a little bit, but he keeps it together. He defends for his life, does Seppo Temba. What a drive, what a sensation, what an effort from the Ferrari driver today in lap 26 of 35. He has kept him at bay completely, has Seppo Tempa, but he is hanging on for dear life. Remember, he has that time penalty to contend with. And on those old tires, he takes that final chicane absolutely sensationally. But Cicle will look to have a move, but he's not going to be near close enough with about a gap of about 6/10 going into turn one. He trims that gap, does the Haas driver, and they will point that car out of turn two with Cicle hoping to get a look in. And he's so close. There was a bit of a glitchy moment there, but Cicle is right on the tail. Cicle goes side by side, and Cicle, Seppo Tempa network issue. Oh, the ghost of Seppo Tempa. Ben Kobe is crashed out. Ben Kobe was in the points, but Ben Kobe has crashed out here. There's a yellow flag again. Is it a safety car? Oh, my word. Ben Kobe was in a prime position to get good points here today, but meanwhile, as I say that, the safety car does not seem to have come out. It is. Oh, Manta was lining a move up on Cicle, and Van Kobe dramatically crashes out.
Opportunity engaka. Hayi kanjena banqobi. Banqobi kanjani nje? Ukhasa kanjani?
Yes, he's lost his car here. Van Kobe, in these absolutely treacherous conditions, brings out the safety car for the 5th time today, but he himself becomes the, is it 7th driver to crash out today? Man, yeah.
Banqobi nebhadi kusho udayeke kulungile. Banqobi amana bekasokhona nje, bekasokhona. Uma restart ekunini bambamba. Kunini bambamba.
Yeah, Kunini Bamba. But Van Kobe could not keep it together. He was struggling with the grip, especially the restarts, as Bertox has mentioned. Now he's going to have to, it's going to be a long debrief for Team McLaren. No points here today. And all these drivers have to do is just bring these cars home, guaranteed points here. Malusi says, hopefully TT can return quick. That was heartbreaking to see. He just completely ghosted, and presumably that's a network issue. Seppo Tempa was doing so well, holding his own on old tires, do not forget, and now finds himself in P3, but hopefully he can get that back together. Wendell Chesney says, 5 safety cars. Ha! T3 would never. Yeah, it's been a really challenging race. Remember, this track is absolutely unforgiving, and as far as track limits are concerned, so coming into those chicanes, there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of precision required, and now these drivers have to now, of course, be even more careful in these treacherous conditions. Cicle, the champion, leads under safety car in lap 28 of 35. From Romeo, Mandla, P2. Oh, what a day for him it would be if he can hang on here, Mandla. Absolutely sensational result potentially on the cards for Mandla if he can hang on here. P2. Seppo Tempa, the ghost thereof. P3, hopefully network issues can be alleviated and he can come back into the race here. He really deserves a sensational result, but Seppo Tempa has been sensational today. Brown Boy, who's put in another stunning fight back, started at the back, finds himself P4. And M. Fundo has served his time penalties. Seppo Tempa is back. Well, that's good to see. He will be fighting the rest of this race. Seppo Tempa, it's good to see him back in the lobby. Zotal, who started off the day so well in qualifying, has really had a topsy-turvy, dramatic race. P6 for the Alpine driver. Mandla, driver of the day so far, says Crash. Do you agree? Let us know in the comments. Is Mandla your driver of the day? Remember, Mandla also starting from the back of this grid, as did Brown Boy. And Seppo Tempa, we've seen put on a stout defense on old tires. The safety car is in this lap, and as I say that, it's lap 29 of 35. Those are the time penalties, 3 seconds for each of Mandla, TT, and Brown Boy, and Esbuda, who had a couple of really dramatic moments. The ghost of Josh, aka the Amnesia, is keeping Titus from the P8 spot currently. So, Seakley, back in the race lead, first time in a while, it must be said. Seakley will have the initiative as far as getting proceedings back underway here. Let's see if he can catch them napping the same way the Brown Boy did. Mandla is hanging on, as is Teppo Temba, who is back. Oh, Mandla manages to keep it together. That gap is less than half a second. Teppo Temba on those old tires at the top of the board and get his perspective. Look at the gap between the top three and the rest already. Seakley takes turn 1, turn 2 without incident. Mandla hanging on. Seakley is at a bit of a twitch. Mandla loses the rear a little bit. That'll compromise his exit. Teppo Temba will need no second invitation, and he's up to P2 with Teppo Temba. Romeo will have to fight his way up from P3, but are they side by side? Oh, another yellow flag. Another yellow flag. Romeo is down to P3. He's lost his spot, and Seakley, courtesy of these two fighting, finds himself up to P2. Zotal is having a nightmare. He's down all the way in P8. Every time the race restarts, Zotal almost struggling here it seems. Now let's see Romeo if he can get this move done on Teppo Temba. He thought about it, but opts to keep his composure and take his time. Teppo Temba gets a slower exit than Mandla, who manages to hang on to the coattails of the Ferrari. He has a slip on the inside, does Mandla, but does not think about it. He goes tighter to the apex. Does Mandla? Oh, it makes contact. There's a little bit of contact, but Mandla does not disturb the line of Teppo Temba too much, thankfully for him. Behind Mandla is Brown Boy, who goes on the inside, and it's Brown Boy versus Mandla. It's Brown Boy side by side. Brown Boy's up to P3 for the Red Bull driver in the McLaren today. What a day, what a drive from him. And he takes that apex cleanly. Will there be a little bit of a moment coming out of that towards World of Champions? The answer is no. It's Romeo fighting, but he's been surpassed by Mfundo. Mandla, who was putting on a gallant, valiant effort, is now down to P5 because Mfundo is inching his way up this pack. All these drivers from Teppo Temba to Esbuda have that 3-second time penalty. Seakley needs to just keep it together. He is in the lead by a factor of about 3.5 seconds. All he needs to do is keep it together. But this is a little bit of a train here as Brown Boy, Mfundo, and Romeo are so close over here, and Romeo has the best vantage point because furthest ahead, of course, is the Ferrari of Teppo Temba, which is managing to keep some breathing space between himself and Brown Boy running in P3. But this is a vantage point from Mandla. Can he get this move done on Mfundo? He's been gallant, he's been valiant, he's fought so hard, did Mandla, but he slipped out of the podium places. What a day would have been for him. Full laps of racing here to go, and Mandla is hanging on for dear life as he tries to brake late. He's usually so tight on the apex. He does it again. Almost makes contact with the back of the Alpine of Mfundo, but Mfundo gets a clean exit. 7/10 the gap between Mfundo and Mandla, who's hanging on for dear life, keeping it together with the 3 laps, soon to be 3 laps of racing to go. I would have you know that Brown Boy and Teppo Temba are the battle to watch here. It's the battle for the second spot, potentially on the podium, lest Seakley makes a mistake, of course, but let's see if Brown Boy can give Teppo Temba some headaches. And for perspective, I would have you know, remember that the tire age, 24 lap old intermediate tires from Teppo Temba, and he's still keeping Brown Boy at bay. It's a sensational drive from the Ferrari driver. Tepiso is cheering him on in the comment section with those scarlet red pom-poms and a little bit of a blue vest.
No, uyajumpa lapha egarage. Kodwa Teppo Temba angazi ukuthi udlala kanjani. Ngalamatayara ngoba igrip ayisekho bheka 24 laps kanjani to umuntu.
Yes, he's building a gap indeed, because as these two battle, remember, Mfundo is hot on the heels of Brown Boy, and Mfundo will want to get this move done. He thinks about it, but will Mfundo hug tight to the apex? Almost makes contact with the back of the McLaren, but as he does that, Romeo Mandla is right on Mfundo's tail, and Teppo Temba is creating some breathing space between himself and Brown Boy, who is being chased mercilessly by these two. It's a sensational end with 3 laps of racing, soon to be 2. Mandla thinks about it. Mandla dive bomb and overtakes Mfundo coming out of the final chicane. It's beautiful stuff from Romeo, who's with those 20 lap old tires, but Mfundo fights back. They almost go side by side, and Mandla has the line turn 1 and turn 2. Beautiful racing from these two. Mandla leaving nothing on the line, leaving nothing to chance, and giving it absolutely his all, fighting it out here against Mfundo. It's been a sensational race from the driver, AlphaTauri driver, currently in the senior seat of the Red Bull colors today. Mandla, absolutely beautiful fighting with Mfundo, who has used so much of his battery to try have some sort of a say on this race. And as these two have battled, remember, Brown Boy has managed to create a little bit of a gap between that P3 and P4 spot. Oh, what a absolutely sensational end to this race. That was courageous, says Malusi the Malusi in the comment section. Beautiful stuff. But Mfundo will be fighting back over here with just about 2 or so laps to go. Mandla takes a wider line on the exit, but Mfundo has to adjust his. Look at that, battery power is down. He's draining, he's dumping all that's left of that battery into Mfundo. He's less than a tenth behind. Will he return the favor and dive on the inside of that Red Bull? No. Mfundo takes a more circumspect approach. If you just turn it, oh, Mandla has a terrible moment coming out of that move, and he loses initiative. Mfundo is now up to P4, and Mandla will be kicking himself. Had a huge twitch on the exit on that final chicane, and will have just 2 more laps to keep it together. Meanwhile, ahead of them, it's Brown Boy versus Temple Temba. Now, he's managed to claw his way out of that scrap between Mfundo and Mandla, and finds himself at some point almost less than a second behind the Ferrari of Temple Temba. Sensational racing over here. Brown Boy P2 here. Temple Temba's tires are gone. 26-lap-old intermediate tires. Remember, all these guys have those 3-second time penalties that you see. This is the penultimate lap out here in what has been a dramatic race in Canada. We've seen DNFs. We've seen beautiful, courageous, outrageous, audacious overtakes. And right now, it's a fight for the penultimate, soon-to-be final lap for these final grid positions. What'll it be for Brown Boy? It's currently a podium spot for the man who's had a sensational recovery drive. Who's your driver of the day? Let us know in the comment section. We've heard some shouts for Mandla. We've heard some shouts for Brown Boy as well. Let's see if he can keep it together. Seakley is setting those times like 19.6. It's the fastest lap for the champion so far. It's the final lap, and crashes that reminds me of Max managing sites at Montreal. Keeping his head is Seppo Temba, keeping Brown Boy at bay. And Brown Boy with an absolutely beautiful race, finding his way from the back. And behind these guys, it's Mfundo, who has managed somehow to keep Mandla at arm's length here. Mandla has been draining his battery, trying to keep abreast of the Alpine driver. Finds himself P5 as Buddha is currently 6th. Titus is all the way up to P7, having overtaken Zotal, who's had a nightmare. He even pitted at some point. He now has 3-lap-old intermediate tires, does Zotal, but he's going to be content with a points finish over here. And the ghost of John Chika, Damnesia, rounds off these positions. TT, driver of the day, says to Piso. Yes, but he did. He has been having a sensational race. 10 seconds is the gap between P1 and P2 as Tempo Temba and Brown Boy fight it out for that final spot. But as I say that, let's get back to the champion. He's been sensational. He's been without fault as far as penalties are concerned, and he will cross the line to win the race in Canada. Sinkley is the race winner. Well, what about the fight coming out of the final chicane? Tempo Temba versus Brown Boy. They've given us a hell of an entertaining battle, but he will cross the line for P2 of Tempo Temba on those 28-lap-old intermediate tires. Brown Boy P3 by a factor of less than a second, and Mfundo will finish P4. A dramatic race, time penalties, drive-through penalties. Mandla, with his best race of the season, comes across the line in P5 from Titus in 6th as Buddha comes home in 7th, and now it is Zotal hurdling down on that back straight towards the final chicane, and he just needs to keep it together and bring the car home in P8. What a day for Alpine. It's a decent points haul in P4 and 8 respectively. A dramatic race for Zotal, who started off so well in qualifying, but he will cross the line in P8 and has a bit of a... Yes, he will cross the line in P8 with Zotal, and the ghost of Jessica, a Damnesia, will finish in P9. What a sensational race! We've seen some shots for Brown Boy, a couple of shouts for one of the first people to join me in the commentary box. He finishes on the podium. Sampo Temba, congratulations. That was insane. Take us through that race.
Let's go. Let's go. Phew. I think that's probably one of the toughest races I've ever had. Between breaking wings, connection issues, you know. But
Yeah.
yeah, man, I'm so happy to have finished in P2. And
Man,
first podium of the season also, so
first
I'm
podium
proud.
of the season. Congratulations, man. That was insane. The age of your tires. Now take us through. You took part in a couple of safety car restarts. You did not pit. You just took advantage of track position. Just take us through the toughness of those battles after those numerous safety car restarts.
It was a bit tough, man, because it's not easy to keep the inters warm
Yeah.
during the safety cars. So, just I think after every safety car restart, it was just a bit of a battle just to, keep the car on track
Yeah.
and keep it away from the walls. So I'm happy I was able to do that, and considering the age of my tires as well.
Oh, man, that was absolutely beautiful stuff. The 86er says, Teppo, the TT stands for top tier driver. Teppo Temba, absolutely beautiful, sensational racing, the way that you kept that together. And of course, on the top step of the podium again, he is so used to it. It's a sensational, it's a hell of a streak of race wins. See, like, congratulations.
Thanks, Ty. Thanks, man.
There was drama at the start of this race. Take us through that.
Um, just keeping ties warm. I think TT said enough regarding that. Even during the formation lap, it was such a mission, and I
Yeah,
didn't expect the track to be so slippery. I
yeah.
just lost the rear, and I wasn't even applying that much power, so had to adapt from that. But yeah, too many safety cars, in my opinion. Way too many.
Yeah.
Um, some, I think the game should have given virtual safety cars. Way
Yeah.
too many safety cars. It was hard to keep tires warm, and that played against everyone actually because now tires are cold. So the likelihood of another incident is
Exactly.
actually higher. So
Yeah. It was a
yeah, it
knock
was
on
just,
effect.
yeah.
Now, I want to hear from both of you. I'll start with you, Temba, about the fight between you two specifically, especially at the safety car restarts. I think at some point, Temba, you might have been leading from, it could have been Clay and Ban Kobe, or from Ban Kobe. Just take us through those restarts. Some of them were sensational, Clay, considering you had by far the older tires.
Yeah, restarts are also very tricky. The person in front always will get away no matter what. No
Yeah,
matter what, because you can't just go on the power. You'll literally spin out and crash. So you have to
yeah.
modulate. Yeah, you have to be careful on how you go on the power once you see the person ahead who got on the power like 2 seconds before you. Now open a gap. So it's yeah, it was tricky. It was tricky. Honestly, the safety cars killed a lot of the fun. There could have been more close racing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, there would have been more cars on track. But TT and Brown Boy, yeah, these guys are crazy, man.
Absolutely
They,
insane. Yeah.
yeah, they are crazy.
ever ever since they've come into the top tier, they've just looked so comfortable. Brown Boy, of course, debut season. TT took to tier one like a duck to water. I just want to hear. Just been trying to get the Brown Boy up here in commentary. We seem to be struggling with that. TT, just take me through your expectations. It's Singapore up next. Just your own level of comfort on that track and your expectation for that performance, TT?
Firstly, shout out to 86er holding it down for Ferrari in tier two.
Yeah.
Um, regarding Singapore, man, Singapore's it's a tough track, so it's gonna take a lot of preparation.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just need to get my prep game up and hopefully bring some good points back for the team.
Yeah. And Clay, I know you have lofty ambitions as far as your racing is concerned, both in breakaway and long term. How are you feeling about Singapore specifically and about how that journey to improve and be challenging pretty much drivers around the world is going?
I love night races, a lot.
Yeah.
Singapore's one of them. I was unlucky with the last race. But yeah, I'm looking at making a difference to my driving
Yeah.
this season.
Beautiful, beautiful stuff, gentlemen. Another fantastic show, and thank you so much for giving us such a memorable entertainment. I guarantee you, despite the safety cars, towards the end, you will definitely enjoy watching that back. The 86er says, let's go, Tepo, Scuderia Boys Worldwide. Thank you very much, gentlemen. We'll be seeing you in the race on Thursday. You can catch, of course, our top tier drivers. And tomorrow you can catch tier 2 and tier 3 drivers. And they will be racing in Singapore tomorrow, of course. So thank you very much for having tuned in to Breakaway. Let's catch up with the last of the comments. TT stands for Tepo Tires, says Crash. Tepo Top Tier Temba. And of course, congratulating TT on that driver of the day. And some people, of course, were impressed with the showing that Mabla put in, eventually finishing outside of the podium places. But what a race it's been! It's been another classic. Thank you for spending your time with Breakaway League Racing. We will catch you in Tier 2 and Tier 3 tomorrow. Thank you and good night.
Good night.